Gan Shalom Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash, the honors to the other apostles of great Millstone who teach and rule well, and Shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading truth and sincerity. Shalom. There's going to be another lesson concerning prophecy in the news, another installment, is the better term. Rawchaa, I'm able to bring out more videos concerning prophecies that take place upon this earth that are being brought out through the news. In this video, I want to talk about the famine and earthquakes, articles that came out concerning that. Last week, I went into that a lot. So Rawchaa, this lesson is going to be edifying too. So yeah, first article that I want to go into is on the endtimeheadlines.org, and it goes into the cost of food is more expensive than it has been in decades. Endtimeheadlines.org is a so-called Christian news outlet that brings out information in relationship to the Bible. So it says, bad news for American consumers. It's getting more expensive to dine out, and it's getting more expensive to eat at home. Restaurants' prices spiked 5.8% over the 12 months ending in November without seasonal adjustments, the Bureau of Labor Statistics said Friday. That's the largest 12-month increase since the year ended January 1982. And unfortunately, for those hoping to curb spending by turning to home cooking, grocery prices are also at record highs. They jumped 6.4%, the largest 12-month increase since December 2008. So not only those people that are trying to eat outside, grab takeaways or sit at a restaurant, which not which um, which sitting in a restaurant you're only able to do that, with a QR code or with proof of inoculation or things like that. You know, so not only those people that you know are able to do that, sit at a restaurant, for whatever reason they have, to be there, or whatever measures they have taken to be able to sit at a restaurant. Not only those people are being hit by an increase in prices, but also those that are just trying to, stay at home, and eat healthy, or just, you know, live from day to day, seeing how they can get by at the end of the month. Those people are also being targeted, and even more than those that are going to the restaurant, you know. So it says beef has the most dramatic increase with a it's like with a 20.9 spike in prices. The sharp increases underscore the fact that restaurant and food makers are not immune to supply chain and labor pressure contributing to pricing increases across the board. Yet they found customers are willing to spend more. So the first thing that I want to go into is, that supply chain. I myself at the moment still work as an order picker for a pretty big company in the Netherlands. And from the inside, I'm able to see how the Most High is, messing with the supply chain. Sometimes computers don't work, printers don't work, machines, and then I mean like the reach trucks or the order picking trucks, have defects, or something happens with the truckers, the trucks come late. So I really see how all these minor things, I want to say in Dutch klein, like minor things, kleine dingetjes, those small things, how they're able to mess with the supply chain. Also an increase in online purchases, for instance, or an increase in um, the need to have truckers on the road, but not having enough. How you say that? You have the demand and you have the supply. So, if there is a lack of truckers, but there's a demand for more truckers, for more trucks to drive, that means that they're not able to deal with the demand. which also influences the supply chain. And for instance, in the last couple of months during these so-called holidays, of course, it has been more chaotic. For instance, at my job as well, which means that all these other companies that are involved in the supply chain have to keep up with that demand as well. They need to have more employees, to put forth the work. You know, but eventually it also says that they find customers are willing to spend more. You can also see this with cigarettes, man. People that are, you know, addicted to cigarettes, they didn't mind when a pack of cigarettes went from €5 to like €8, which is a €3 increase. Which that's a lot. Not even calculate the percentage that it has risen, but that's a lot. You know. So even though these prices are rising, the people are still willing to spend more. But there's gonna come a point in which they're only able to buy so much with the money that they have received at the end of the month with their job. You see, and that's the point. It says, in fact, restaurants have been raising prices as their own food and labor costs rise. And so far, they say consumers have accepted the hikes. McDonald's said in October that it expects menu prices to be about 6% higher this year compared to last. The increase has been pretty well received by customers, CEO Chris Kemchikini said during an October analyst call. Chipotle also raised prices this year. Yes, yet it has seen its same-store restaurants sales grow. Beyond restaurants, food manufacturers and grocers have faced higher costs for commodities, labor, and transportation. Those costs have escalated further in recent months, leading manufacturers to pass some of them on their retail customers, who in turn charge consumers a portion of those increases. Of course, because as a company, you still want to be able to make a profit. And that's how a company thrives. It needs to make profit, for everybody to be paid, then eventually for that company to develop itself, bigger and bigger. Of course, we also know that, through the spirit and power of Bahasham that this society is going to collapse, and it's according to the Most High's will when that's going to happen, precisely. But what we do see is that these things are all stacking up for that to happen. There's an increase in the price of food, which is going to lead to famine. We see that there's an increase in people leaving their job, or needing to leave their job because of the mandates that are being pushed during this pandemic. You see, so we see that the Most High is preparing this earth, for its downfall. So that we, as the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also those that are scattered among the heathen nations that might look like the heathen nations, but his lineage, goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob according to their father's seed line. We're going to be the next one in rulership. You see. So this first article went into that the cost of food is more expensive than it had been in decades. So we see that these prices are rising and rising. The next article is also going into inflation, which inflation is basically prices having to rise. So it says the devastation inflation crisis that we have been warned about is here. It says all of a sudden, inflation is one of the hottest political issues in America. Most people seem surprised that inflation has gotten so wildly out of control. But the truth is that this should not be a surprise to any of us. We've been warned for years that it was coming. Whenever our corrupt politicians in Washington authorized trillions more in spending that we couldn't afford, we were warned that this cause uh, would eventually cause extremely painful inflation. But it didn't happen immediately, and so most Americans didn't take the warning seriously. And as the experts at the Federal Reserve kept pumping millions of fresh dollars into our financial system, we were warned that there would eventually be severe consequences. And that's what people really have. They'd be like, "Oh no, it's not gonna happen in my time. I'm just gonna enjoy and live my life, live sumptuously." But as this earth, is heading more and more into the future, these things are coming to pass. and eventually, like I said, this system is gonna crash. You know, it says, but those consequences did not arrive immediately. You see, and so most Americans didn't take the warning seriously. It's the same thing with us preaching the word for Bahasham Yahawashi. Of course, people see what's going on a minor level, but their hope is like, things are gonna go back to better. But it's not. It's only going to get worse because, as it says in the scriptures, these are the beginning of sorrows. All the signs that the Most High is showing upon this earth are beginning of sorrows, and the people need to start to realize these things. The Most High is about to, shut the door, for our people to come back to the Heavenly Father. And once that door is shut, it's game over. You know, then things are gonna happen, and then there's no way for the people to have access to the Heavenly Father. Right now, the Most High is speaking to His people through His servants, the prophets, or bringing out videos, going to the highways and byways, starting off with the elders apostles of GMS on down. Who've been laboring in this truth for over 30 years. Warning our people, and telling these other nations concerning the judgment that is to come. You know, but like it says in this paragraph as well, but those consequences did not arrive immediately. The things that we spoke about, and that elder apostles, and the elders on down spoke about didn't happen immediately. So they didn't take those things that we were speaking seriously. Just like the people are not taking things seriously, with the economy, man. And so most Americans didn't take the warning seriously. But now a day of reckoning, but now a day of reckoning has arrived, and conditions are only going to get worse from this point forward. On Friday, the Labor Department informed us that the inflation rate is rising at the fastest pace that we have seen since 1982. Inflation accelerated at its fastest pace since 1982 in November. The Labor Department said Friday, putting pressure on the economic recovery and raising the stake for the Federal Reserve. The Consumer Price Index, which means the cost of a wide-ranging basket of goods and services, rose 0.8 for the month, good for a 6.8 pace on a year-over-year basis, and the fastest rate since June 1982. So there was an increase, happening concerning this for a lot of years. Things sure have changed since 1982. Back then, the average price of a new vehicle was around $8,000, and the average price of a new house was just around $82,000. And the way that the inflation rate uh, has been calculated has changed dramatically since then as well. In fact, the way it is calculated has literally changed more than 2 dozen times since 1980. And every time the goal was to make it look even lower. So, new vehicle in this day and age, you know, depending on the type, a very basic car over here, for instance, is like, the basics of the basics, like 10,000, 9 to 10,000. Then like 15,000 for a little bit more advanced, 25,000 for like, and then you're talking about, brands that are not like Mercedes or BMW or Audi. They're talking about Hyundai or what is it, Toyota, and houses, man, you know, crazy, man. Houses like small apartments going for about 150 to 200,000 euros or more. So yeah, things are going crazy concerning the economy. People are not really able to, to get by like that. All these things are raising. The price of food is rising. You know, other costs are rising. What about, you know, the salary? You know, that has been the same for a long time. So that means you're gonna have less purchasing power. You can buy less with the money that you have. You can do less with those things. It says, as John Williams of ShadowStats.com has pointed out, if the annual rate of inflation was still calculated the way it was back in 1980, it would be about 15% right now. But the formula was certainly not perfect back then either. During one of his recent shows, Tucker Carlson explained that the official rate of inflation has become completely divorced from the extremely aggressive price increase that United States customers are wrestling with on a daily basis. In fact, there's only one accurate way to measure inflation, and somehow the Fed has not yet figured this out. Here it is. You ask yourself, what does it cost you to live in this country compared to what it cost you a year ago? It's not that complicated. Do the math. You will see that the actual number, the rise in inflation, is not even close to the 7% that Washington is claiming. In the last year, the price of a used car, for example, is going up by more than 30%. Beef prices have risen by 20%, 21%. Crude oil up to 55%. Dimensional lumber 35, wheat 37, sugar 33, corn 39, palm oil 43. Do you drink coffee in the morning? Ever? Oh, too bad. The price of coffee has risen 108% in the last year. So these numbers show you that the price have risen much more than that they claim. And beef is food, and crude oil, if I'm correct, from crude oil, they make gasoline and diesel, and if that rises like this, you're also going to put it back in the prices that you pay per gallon or per liter for your gasoline, which that's what you need to go to your job or places. So we see that all these prices, eventually going to make sure that people have less purchasing power, because then people have to really be specific with what they have to, put their money, for what they have to put their money down. We need food. We need a roof over our head. We need a shower. We need a shower to wash ourselves for the hygiene. We need the basic things, the principal things in life. The scriptures talk about that. You know, um, so we need those principal things, which is the most important things, man. It says, this is Sirach chapter 39, verse 26. The principal things for the whole use of man's life are water. So we need to have water. We need to be able to drink. Fire to keep ourselves warm and to make food with. Iron and salt. Flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. So these are the things that we need to have at least. And of course it's good to have a home, to really retract yourself. But those things are also getting more and more expensive. But the point is, scriptures talk about that these are the principal things for the whole use of man's life. You know. And also these things are getting more expensive, and also it's harder to acquire them with all these rules and regulations being made. You know. So reading on, it says, "Do you like breakfast cereal? Oh, sorry, oats are up 114%. You know what? He's right. Tucker Carlson is such a gifted communicator, and he hits this one out of the ballpark. Later on in that same segment, he played clips from various reporters talking about painful price increases that we're seeing all around the nation. So yeah, in relationship to this article, the two articles that I like in relationship to this video, the two articles that I went into was in relationship to the famine. Why? Because higher prices of goods also means higher prices of food, and that's going to cause a scarcity. So it says famine. A famine is a widespread scarcity of food caused by several factors, including war, natural disasters, crop failure. For instance, peanut, uh, um, the peanut harvest. A couple of years ago or last year was shitty. So the price of peanut butter and products with peanut increased because then there's less available, to be distributed, to be processed, and to be delivered, eventually to the place of the customer. It says population imbalance, basically meaning too many people, for this earth. It says widespread poverty, which this is a lie, because the Most High said, be a fruitful multiply. You know. So I don't want to go into that too much, but it says widespread poverty, which they changed these devils because this was going into inflation back in the days. But it says poverty is a state of having little material possessions or income. Poverty can have diverse social, economic, and political causes and effects. So if you have a certain income and you're able to purchase little materials with that, that means, you know, that could lead up to famine. If you have to pay more for your gas prices, but um, you get the same salary at the end of the month, but also the food prices rise. It means that you're gonna have, less purchasing power to buy food, which eventually gonna lead to famine. Also, the way that, they um, with the transportation right now, means that less is being able to go to the supermarkets, which means uh, less food is being able to be bought, which also leads to famine. It says an economic catastrophe or government policies. So it says inflation effect on economy. Inflation is a sustained rise in overall price levels. Moderate inflation is associated with economic growth, while high inflation can signal an overheated economy. As an economy grows, businesses and consumers spend more money on goods and services. So the inflation goes into sustained rise in overall price levels, also goes into how food prices are rising. This is the next article I want to go into concerning a powerful earthquake that hit India, like Indonesia. So it says a powerful 7.3 magnitude earthquake has reportedly struck eastern Indonesia on Tuesday, according to the United States Geological Survey. According to France 24 News, there is the possibility of hazardous tsunami waves being generated from this quake. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said hazardous waves are possible for coasts located within 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles of the quake epicenter. So this very powerful earthquake, because if we go to it says the earthquake magnitude scale. It says magnitude scales can be used to describe earthquakes so small that they are expressed in negative numbers. The scale also has no upper limit. Learn more about how we measure earthquake magnitude. So what we see is we have a very powerful earthquake of 7.3 on the scale of magnitude. Yeah. Which that goes into a major earthquake and causes serious damage. Earlier this week or earlier, basically last week, I spoke about earthquakes as well. Which that went into these two categories, the 2.5 to 5.4 and the 5.5 to 6. But this one is a 7.3, which that is a major earthquake. And this earthquake even, is has a chance of sparking a tsunami, which there's an earthquake that happens in the waters by which huge waves, can be created that can damage coastal areas. You know, Also another one in America and Ohio. It says magnitude 3.0 earthquake rattles southeast Ohio residents. It says the United States Geological Survey reported a 3.0 magnitude earthquake hit Ohio Sunday afternoon right along the Ohio River, according to WLWT5 News. Sunday's afternoon earthquake struck around 12:52 p.m. near Manchester, Ohio, and hit a depth of about 0.7 miles. Manchester is about 75 miles east of Cincinnati. People in surrounding areas like West Union and Maysville reported they felt the quake. There have been no reports of any damage, according to the USGS. 40 people have reported feeling the quake so far. Although most people do not think of Ohio as an earthquake-prone state, at least 200 earthquakes with epicenters in Ohio have been felt since 1776. So That goes into an earthquake that is often felt but only causes minor damage. And there are about 500,000, which is half a million, estimated every year. And the earthquake that took place in Indonesia, you know, only 10 to 15 happen each year, which that's an estimation. So more of those can happen, you know. So yeah, right now I want to go into the scriptures. Spoke about in the articles. In the articles, it spoke about how prices are rising of food, how there's inflation, which that goes into rising prices on the overall level, which means that you have a certain amount of money that you get every month, and you have to distribute that money to certain assets. You know, uh, basically your fixed bills, your fixed outgoings, your fixed spendings. You know, but these things are getting more expensive, so you're able to do less with the money that you have. But this is Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17. Son of man, I've made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. And this is talking about the service of the prophets of Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, starting up with the other apostles, GMS on down, that are being set up, to speak into the house of Israel, the words that are contained in the scriptures, and prophesy, about the prophecies that are written therein, and to warn our people from the things that are coming upon this earth. You see, it says, verse 18, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. So if we are aware, of the words that are contained in the scriptures, if we know the truth, we do not warn our people. Those people that die, they were not aware, of those things. But they're gonna die in their sins because we didn't tell them to return back to Al-Bashim al-Shai in order for them to be saved during the things that are coming upon this earth. With the sword, famine, death, and destruction. You know, as it says in second Esdras chapter 15, and let me start at verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, said the Lord Yahawah. So we have to speak towards the people, the Israelites. I want to explain that those are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also those that were scattered among the heathen nations that might look like the heathen nations, but whose lineage does go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob according to the father's seed line. We have to speak unto those people the words of prophecy, those things that were written aforetime, you know, that were foretold to happen upon this earth, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. In this day and age, we're able to read the Bible. And the things that are contained therein can be relied, and are trustworthy. It's surely going to happen. Verse 3, for not the imaginations against thee, that not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. So it might be that we're preaching and teaching this word, but people wanna scoff, wanna mock, come against us. We shouldn't be afraid of those things. Also, we shouldn't let their unbelief trouble us, you know, if they speak against us. Verse 4, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Those people that don't believe the words they were speaking, that are not taking heed, eventually those people are gonna die, you know. So yeah, we're trying to warn those people, We're trying to bring them back to Yahawah Shai, you know. But if they don't want to listen, if they don't want to hear these words, don't be troubled by it. Verse 5, behold, said the Lord Yahawah, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. So the Most High is going to bring these things upon the earth. The sword, the modern day sword, is a gun, the military, you know, um, think about the situations that are similar to the movie The Purge. Think about wars, that can happen upon this earth, class/race wars. Think about the Third World War that's being prepared upon this earth as well to the spirit of Yahweh Shai. Think about the famine, which is lack of bread, lack of water, people dying because of that, death and destruction. You see. Back to Ezekiel, chapter 3 and verse 18 again. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die. Why? Because you're not turning back to Yahweh Shai, you're not turning, from your wicked ways, and thou givest him not warning, Nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life. The same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Verse 19, yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. This is what's happening, what's gonna happen. Like this is what's gonna happen with those people that are unfaithful, that don't want to believe the words that we're speaking. They heard the words, they didn't want to listen, they didn't want to turn back to Bahasham Yashai. These people are gonna die a terrible death, you know, by means of the sword, famine, the plague, diseases, the teeth of wild beasts, famine hill, you know, all these things are created, for the wicked, the sinners. So this is what a watchman does. This is second Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. When thou seest part of the times past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it's the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So we're measuring the times by watching the news and seeing what's happening upon this earth. We're filtering those things through the scriptures and bringing out that information. Also through these signs that are coming to pass, we understand that the Most High is bringing judgment forth upon this earth. Verse 3, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and upwards of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So when we're going to see earthquakes and upwards of the people, the earthquake in Indonesia, the earthquake in Ohio. Last week, we spoke about another earthquake that took place in America. Well, basically 40 earthquakes in 24 hours. When we see these things, then we're gonna understand, hey, these things were foretold back in the days, like over 2,000 years ago, but they're happening right now upon this earth. You see, but also concerning the upwards of the people. 2019 was named, the year of um, the year of protest. We see that that spirit, is still continuing, up until this day. Especially right now with all these mandates being put forth that you know uh, uh, um, the percentage of the people is not agreeing with. Yeah, man. So this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And we can, in relationship to this week and last week, Russia and Ukraine, America interfering, you know, those are rumors of wars. But we shouldn't be troubled by these things neither, because these sorrows, these things need to happen upon this earth. But it's still not the end. It needs to happen. If it doesn't happen, we're not able to enter into the kingdom. You see, the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in their first places. You see, so nations gonna stand up against nations, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, whether it's because of crop failure, whether it's because of the prices of the food rising, and the inflation, increased costs of commodities, you know, pestilences and earthquakes. Right now we're dealing with the pandemic. You know, I went into an earthquake that took place in Indonesia and in Ohio. Those are in diverse places. You can even look it up on an earthquake monitor website that monitors all the earthquakes that take place in a day. You're going to be amazed how many earthquakes are taking place in diverse places, man. Verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrow. So these are just the beginnings of what's about to happen upon this earth. Because the Bible talks about a time of Jacob's trouble, which is not going to be compared, which is not being able to be compared to anything that ever happened upon this earth, in the past. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And who is he? Those that are ordained from the foundation of the earth, you know, to be saved out of that situation. Or does that we be part of those numbers? you know. And the First and the Second World War cannot be compared to it, you know. It's going to be much, much worse than what you've seen in movies, what you can combine with movies, you know. It's going to be terrible. And the only one that's able to guide you and keep you in safety is Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. Therefore, we are making these videos, you know, to to wake up our people, you know, and you know, people are blind to what's going on. This is Matthew chapter 16 and verse 1. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? So, you know, those two sects, they desired of Yahawashi that he would give them a sign so they would believe him. But then he said, you know, you can basically look to the sky and know what weather is gonna be, you know. You're able to forecast, you know, the weather, you know, but you're not able to discern these times that they were in back then, because throughout the scriptures it was written of Yahawashi, you know, and then he was there, and then they couldn't understand that that was the Messiah that was being spoken about, you know, all the way back to Moses in Deuteronomy. And in this day and age, you know, our people are not able to discern the signs of the times neither. The Most High is giving all these signs, you know, all these tokens, you know, but people are not, they're not seeing it, you know. But hey, this is Second Ezra chapter 5 and verse 1. Nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the day shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. So, you know, as concerning the prophecies and the signs that are being shown, you know, the day is going to come that a lot of people are going to die upon this earth during the time of Jacob's trouble. The Most High is going to take away his servants, the prophets, you know, from the streets, from the YouTube. And a lot of people are going to be asking questions like what's going on. They're not going to have no faith no more, you know, because they don't know what's going to, basically what's taking place upon this earth. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going to be next in line. They have no hope for the future. Their hope is going to be gone, you know. But we, starting off with the other apostles of GMS on down, we know what's going on. We're preparing ourselves and we're trying to prepare our people, you know, through the spirit of power of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, by bringing out this information concerning what's going on upon this earth, concerning the times that our people might wake up. You see? So Yaratazah, you know, this lesson was edifying. You know, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of great Millstone who teach and rule well. And shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading truth and sincerity. Shalom.